Hare Krishna. Today we are reading from Canto 1, Chapter 12, named Birth of Emperor Parikshit, Text 20. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udhirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruktam Ashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtikim Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopah Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, everyone. This morning we are reading from, I'm just repeating it, Canto 1, Chapter 12, named Birth of Emperor Parikshit, Text 20. Yesha data sharanyascha yadahya aushina rashibihi yasho vitanita swanam daushantir iva yagvanam. Repeating this verse once again. Esha data sharanyascha yata haushi narashibihi yasho vitanita swanam daushanti riva yagvanam. Reading word for word meaning. Esha, this child, data, donor in charity, sharanyaha, protector of the surrendered, cha, and yatha, as he, certainly, Aushinaraha, the country named Ushinara, Shibihi, Shibi, Yashaha, fame, Vitanita, disseminator, Swanam, of the kinsmen, Daushanti, Iva, like Bharata, the son of Dushyanta, Yagvanam, of those who have performed many sacrifices. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. This child will be a munificent donor of charity and protector of the surrendered, like the famous King Shibi of the Ushinara country, and he will expand the name and fame of his family like Bharata, the son of Maharaj Dushyanta. Purport. A king becomes famous by his acts of charity, performances of yagyas, protection of the surrendered, etc. A Kshatriya king is proud to give protection to the surrendered souls. This attitude of a king is called Ishvara Bhava, or factual power to give protection in a righteous cause. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord instructs living beings to surrender unto him, and he promises all protection. The Lord is all powerful and true to his word, and therefore he never fails to give protection to his different devotees. The king, being the representative of the Lord, must possess this attitude of giving protection to the surrendered souls at all risk. Maharaj Shibi, the king of Ushinara, was an intimate friend of Maharaj Yayati, who was able to reach the heavenly planets along with Maharaj Shibi. Maharaj Shibi was aware of the heavenly planet where he was to be transferred after his death, and the description of this heavenly planet is given in the Mahabharata Adi Parva 96:6-9. Maharaj Shibi was so charitably disposed that he wanted to give over his acquired position in the heavenly kingdom to Yayati, but he did not accept it. Yayati went to the heavenly planet along with great rishis like Ashtaka and others. On enquiry from the rishis, Yayati gave an account of Shibi's pious acts when all of them were on the path to heaven. He has become a member of the assembly of Yamaraj, who has become his worshipful deity. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, the worshipper of the demigods goes to the planets of the demigods, Yanti Deva Vrata Devan. Bhagavad Gita 9.25. So, Maharaj Shibi has become an associate of the great Vaishnava authority Yamaraj on that particular planet. While he was on the earth, he became very famous as a protector of the surrendered souls and a donor of charities. The king of heaven once took the shape of a pigeon hunter bird, eagle, and Agni, the fire god, took the shape of a pigeon. The pigeon, while being chased by the eagle, took shelter on the lap of Maharaj Shibi, and the hunter eagle wanted the pigeon back from the king. The king wanted to give it some other meat to eat and requested the bird not to kill the pigeon. The hunter bird refused to accept the king's offer, but it was settled later on that the eagle would accept flesh from the body of the king of the pigeon's equivalent weight. The king began to cut flesh from his body to weigh in balance equivalent to the weight of the pigeon, but the mystic pigeon always remained heavier. The king then put himself on the balance to equate with the pigeon, and the demigods were pleased with him. The king of heaven and the fire god disclosed their identity, and the king was blessed by them. Devarshi Narada also glorified Maharaj Shibi for his great achievements, specifically in charity and protection. Maharaj Shibi sacrificed his own son for the satisfaction of human beings in his kingdom, and thus child Parikshit was to become a second Shibi in charity and protection. Daushanti Bharata. There are many Bharatas in history, of which Bharata, the brother of Lord Rama, Bharata, the son of King Rishabha, and Bharata, the son of Maharaj Dushyanta, are very famous. And all these Bharatas are historically known to the universe. This earth planet is known as Bharata or Bharatavarsha, due to the king Bharata, the son of Rishabha. But according to some, this land is known as Bharata due to the reign of son of Dushyanta. So far as we are concerned, this land's name Bharatavarsha was established from the reign of Bharata, the son of King Rishabha. Before him, the land was known as Ilavati Varsha. But just after the coronation of Bharata, the son of Rishabha, this land became famous as Bharatavarsha. But despite all this, Bharata, the son of Maharaj Dushyanta, was not less important. He is the son of the famous beauty Shakuntala. Maharaj Dushyanta fell in love with Shakuntala in the forest, and Bharata was conceived. After that, Maharaj forgot his wife Shakuntala by the curse of Kanva Muni, and the child Bharata was brought up in the forest by his mother. Even in his childhood, he was so powerful that he challenged the lions and elephants in the forest and would fight with them as the little children play with cats and dogs. Because of the boys becoming so strong, more than the so called modern Tarzan, the rishis in the forest called him Sarvadaman, or one who is able to control everyone. A full description of Maharaj Bharata is given in the Mahabharata, Adiparva. The Pandavas or the Kurus are sometimes addressed as Bharata due to being born in the dynasty of the famous Maharaj Bharata, the son of King Dushyanta. It's a long purport. We start with prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोतु वाचालं पंगुं लङ्घयते गिरिं, यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरो दीनतारिणम्। हरे कृष्ण is a very interesting verse. Before I speak anything on this verse, I seek blessings from all the assembled Vaishnavas so that I can speak something meaningful. Initially, when I read the translation of this verse, I thought it would be very appropriate to speak about the histories of these great kings. But when I read the purport, I understood that Prabhupada has already given most of it, most of the known histories of these great kings. I think except for the few sentences in the beginning, most of it is most of the purport is nothing but the history of all these great kings. In fact, these are all Rajarshis. They are all they worked so hard to protect dharma and to spread dharma, because whether it is this Kali Yuga or any other yuga, there would be so many elements who are very interested, elements in the society who are very interested to somehow break the religious principles. And of course, in the olden ages, such people were quite less compared to what we see in the present day and age Kali Yuga. Today, most people are not even interested in practicing the Vedic system or the code of conduct according to the Vedic knowledge. Most of, if we compare the impious people of this age and the impious people of the previous age, those people would appear, people from the previous ages would appear much more pious. Like one example which comes to my mind is when Mohini Murti is roaming around. She was roaming around with holding a flower or a ball made out of flowers in her hand. These Rakshasas, who are considered to be very degraded, they actually come to her and ask her, "Oh, beautiful lady, you are roaming alone. Could you please tell us who your father is so that we can go and ask him to give you in marriage?" So this was the culture of Rakshasas in the bygone ages. Today we can't even expect that to happen. But anyways, so in this particular shloka, which is a continuation of a series of verses, I think this started in the last section where the Brahmanas start explaining the glories of Parikshit when he was just a child, and he is being explained. So this child is going to be a great king. He'll be a great devotee. He'll be, he'll have all these great qualities. Like he'll be a great donor. He will be very chivalrous in his activities. He is a protector of the surrendered souls. All these things are explained, and he is being compared with various kings who have been, who had previously expressed all these great virtues. So maybe before we get into some discussion on this, I would like to first start with what is this system of the Varna and Ashrama. Of course, all of us have known this, and to my knowledge, I mean, I have a very little knowledge on this. I have been trying to understand more on this. If anyone feels that I'm speaking something wrong, please feel free to correct. But as far as I understand, this Varna and Ashrama are given according to the Guna and Karma. Bhagavad Gita clearly tells that, Chaturvanyam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha. So depending on what is the nature of a person, what is the nature of his activities, he is actually, it is said that he is a Brahmana, or he's a Kshatriya or something like that. So in general, if this Varnashram system is not in place, people have different tendencies, and there will not be any there will be a lot of chaos in the society, because everyone wants to engage according to their tendency. There will not be any kind of I would say regularity, or some kind of um, mm, some kind of administration where the whole society is benefited by that, right? So the three modes of nature, sattva, raja, and tamoguna, and the activities, all the activities can be categorized uh, uh, to be in one of these modes or a mixture of these modes, and depending on a person's inclination to act in a particular way, his varna is decided. What is the use of deciding this varna is because we can actually keep a very systematic order in the society. And this varnashram system, it is not that this was there in the olden ages and today it is not there. It is found everywhere. Wherever we find a group of people working together, in a company or an organization or any kind of social structure, we naturally find this. It's not that this is some kind of birth-based caste system which was proposed by some primitive thinking men in the past. This is found everywhere. Even if we take the organizational structure of our, let us say, of our company, there will be some people who will be deciding, like uh, who will be taking the role of a brahmana, of teaching, uh, or guiding people in terms of how to make progress, how to take the organization to the higher level. So that kind of people are always there. And coming to the kshatriyas, there will be administrative class. Without a doubt, every organization requires someone to administer the teachings which are given by the brahmanas. So that is the main purpose of the administrative class. Of course, this is done by in two ways. Like I remember from one of the lectures which I heard, it is said that the brahmana teaches by shastra, and the kshatriyas teach by shastra. So they have so much power. I mean, by nature they have that in their own in their own existence actually. So if there was no varnashrama system, obviously they are going to misuse that. And that is why this varnashram system gives an opportunity to every conditioned living entity to express their innate nature in a way that is beneficial to themselves as well as to the entire society. So imagine if there was no varnashrama system, and a kshatriya who is very powerful, he is there in the society. He always wants to conquer others. He always wants to show himself, show, I mean, promote himself, or he always wants to control others. So if in the varnashram system, his nature is given a vent. He said, like, okay, you have this, so you become the king and you protect the citizens. So these are your citizens, and if there is some harm coming to these citizens, you must protect them. Anyone who surrenders to you, you must protect them. So these are like the laws given to the king from the by the Vedic system of varnashrama. They say, okay, you are in this particular varna, you should follow this set of rules, so that it will be beneficial for him as well as for others. And he also gets a chance to vent out his tendencies or nature or whatever we call it. So in this way, kshatriya is given some duty where he can actually show his power or strength in terms of protecting his citizens. So he protects them not only in terms of attacks from the neighboring countries, or not only that kind of protection. There is another level of protection which is also offered. That is the protection on a higher platform of giving them emotional support, giving them kind of nice structure in the society. So he maintains some good structure in the society where Hare Krishna. Yeah, I think I was lost for a moment. Yeah, so he's given an opportunity to create that structure in the society where he can actually let the spiritual knowledge propagate. So on one hand, the material necessities are also taken care, and on the other hand, the spiritual teachings are also given in a perfect varnashram society, so that everyone gets benefited by being a part of this society. And these great kings, they have they have always been guided by the great brahmanas. So no one in the Vedic society is kind of independent. He is always supposed to be accountable. He is always supposed to be accountable to someone or the other. Like, for example, the kshatriyas are accountable to the brahmanas. They cannot act independently. And the Vaishyas are accountable to the Kshatriyas. They cannot act independently. They cannot collect any amount of money or sell their goods for any amount of, they cannot cheat actually. And the Shudras are accountable to other three classes. And when it comes to Brahmanas, Brahmanas are those very few people who are like, who are accountable not only, to the, of course, to the society, but they have a spiritual connection. So they consider themselves to be accountable to their spiritual master as well as the Supreme Lord. So such people only were called Brahmanas. It's not that, when they take birth in a Brahmana family, they become Brahmanas automatically. So these people, they have, that is why these people have a lot of independence compared to other three classes, because it is sure that they have such a high character. They don't misuse their independence just like that. So that is why they are kind of, in one sense, they are self-accountable. They are accountable to the scriptures. They are accountable to the Supreme Lord, and of course, they are accountable to the other three classes of the society. But they have some independence because they are not, depending on the society for their maintenance, and in that way, they are independent. And because they are not depending on the society for their maintenance, it is kind of, they just accept charity, and whatever comes in charity, they accept that. It's not that they have to work like the other three classes, for their livelihood or anything like that. So these Brahmanas, they actually are more independent compared to the other three classes, but they are not completely independent. They are not completely independent. They are supposed to be accountable to the Supreme Lord. And when this system is being followed, then there is a perfect order in the society. Unfortunately, in today's world, everyone wants to take the role of somebody else. They don't act according to their nature, and slowly, even the modern society is coming towards this kind of teachings where they say, act according to your nature. So that is actually one of the most important teachings in the Vedic times. But then there is a system also created in such a way that by acting according to your nature, not everyone, nobody in the society is harmed. Rather, you are given an opportunity to um, express your nature in a way that is beneficial for everyone. So ultimately, the whole purpose is to see to that everyone makes some amount of spiritual progress through every activity they do. Like in Bhagavatam also, we see that dharma is explained in different ways in the first canto, actually first canto, second chapter, divinity and divine service. It explains that the topmost dharma, savai pumsa paro dharma, yato bhakti radhokshaje, that is the topmost dharma. And there is no other dharma which can be compared to that. Like, we cannot say that, okay, I have this this is Bhagavad dharma, that is serving the Supreme Lord without any motivation or without any hindrance, right? So savai pumsa paro dharma yato bhakti radhokshaje ahetuki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. If someone wants to attain real satisfaction, this is the only way. Serve the Supreme Lord without any motivation, without any expectation, and that is how a soul can be satisfied. But then there are other dharmas also which are pertaining to this world. Like, maybe I have to perform, if I am a Brahmana, I have to perform the Brahmana dharma. If I am Kshatriya, then I have to perform. This is Varnashram dharma, actually. And in the same series of verses, it is said, like, any activity you perform, if it is not pleasing to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, if it is not invoking love for Lord in your heart, then that is simply useless waste of labor. So that means there is a higher dharma, and there are other dharmas because of you being a part of this society. And if you don't perform, so it gives us a perspective actually. So you perform your activities in such a way that you attain the higher dharma, right? Higher goal of life. So the whole varnashram system, all the activities in varnashram system are designed in such a way that they are aligned with our parodharma. And when they are aligned with our paradharma, then the two things are simultaneously satisfied. One is there is prosperity in the society, and there is also there is also spiritual progress for everyone. So this is a very intelligent system, I would say, because everything is taken care of properly. Because not everyone wants to become a pure devotee, but everyone is given a chance to progress on the path of spiritual life, so that over a period of time they become purified, little by little. And they also develop the tendency to serve the Supreme Lord without any motivation and without any um, without any material motivation or without any hindrance, right? Haituki apratihata. So in that way, they are allow. The whole system is designed in such a way that slowly they are coming to that platform. Everyone is coming to that platform, irrespective of whether he is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, or Brahmachari, Vanaprastha, Grahastha, or Sannyasi. Everyone is given a chance. So that is why this is one of the. The Varnashram system is a very mm, although people in today's world say that it is a very conservative system, or they speak so much bad about that because of not understanding what are the principles behind that. But as such, this system is very powerful in giving material as well as the spiritual prosperity. In fact, in Bhagavad Gita, the goal of human life, as we all always speak about, that is to attain supreme, right? Is to surrender to the Supreme Lord, worship him, like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. That is the topmost platform, right? But then in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna speaks various yoga systems, right? He speaks karma yoga, then he speaks gnana yoga, he speaks so many different yoga systems. The purpose, Krishna always wanted to speak only pure devotional service, and we can see that in the second chapter itself, Krishna doesn't start with, okay, Sankhya yoga, let us describe what are the elements. No, he actually speaks about pure devotional service starting from the second chapter. Starting from the time he starts speaking till the end of Bhagavad Gita, he only wanted to give pure devotional service. But then different living entities have different tendencies. So all the different yoga systems which are given in Bhagavad Gita are nothing but Krishna's mercy, by which he is showing that, okay, you have some tendency to act in a particular way, you can act, but ultimately, you can act in the given system, but ultimately this system will take you to the higher destination. That is the Bhakti Yoga. So throughout Bhagavad Gita, we can find that Krishna's expression, like even in the one thing which immediately I remember is in the sixth chapter, 6.47. He says, he describes the whole yoga system, and finally he says, yoginam api sarvesham madgatenantaratmanah shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamo matah. So you practice all this yoga system. He describes so many things, like you have the sitting position, the sitting place, how to choose that place. It should not be too high or too low. Then how to close your eyes. All these details are given in the sixth chapter. But ultimately, he says a perfect yogi is one who actually constantly meditates upon me. Yoginam api sarvesham madgate nantaratmanah. Shraddhavan bhajite yomam. So one who constantly meditates upon me and constantly does bhajan of me, he is considered to be the topmost yogi, irrespective of where he is sitting and all other things, right? So these yoga systems are described by the Lord, so that people who have different other tendencies, who do not want to immediately come to the path of pure devotional service, are also given an opportunity. So we can understand by this how merciful Krishna is. So coming back to this verse, we see that Krishna, out of his mercy, he also sends great kings like Maharaj Parikshit, like Yudhishthir Maharaj, and so many other kings. In fact, in the purport, Prabhupada explains elaborately about Shibi Chakravarti, as well as Bharata, who is son of Dushyanta, and Bharata, who is son of Rishabhadev. So Maharaj Parikshit was, it was predicted that he is going to be as great as those kings in terms of charity, in terms of protecting the surrendered souls and all that. So we see these things in the life of Parikshit Maharaj also. But before we go there, I would like to just mention a little bit of history. I was trying to find out who are all these great kings. What is this? Where is this Vamsha coming from? So these lunar and solar dynasties, the sun, Ikshvaku Vamsha is the dynasty where Lord Ramachandra appeared, and lunar dynasty is started by King Pururava, where Lord Krishna appeared. In fact, all the characters that we see in Srimad Bhagavatam, um, most of the characters, I would say, most of the great personalities that we see, these are all related actually. Like, in fact, Prabhupada also mentions in the purport that Dushyanta's son Bharata was an ancestor of Kauravas and Pandavas. So these are all coming in the same lineage. In fact, Krishna and Arjuna, their families have been related for so many ages actually. So Yayati, Yadu, King Puru, and so many other great personalities appear in this dynasty. And this dynasty has been existing not just in Dwapar Yuga, but even before that, even in Treta Yuga, it was there. And all these great kings appeared. And in fact, uh, I have to check with some spiritual authority also, but I have seen that there are many kings by the name Parikshit, many kings by the name Janamejaya, many kings by the name, like Prabhupada mentions here, like Bharata, and so many names of these kings keep repeating in the entire dynasty. There are hundreds and hundreds of kings who are all protectors of dharma and propagators of dharma. So, as I said, king helps in propagating dharma by using shastra. He has power. He actually uses his power for the propagation of spiritual knowledge in the entire society. Of course, there are some kings who become very. Sometimes we have kings like Vena also in the in Bhagavatam we read about King Vena. But then because of the system, because of the varnashram system which was existing, the kings also, because as I said, they are accountable, and when they are not accountable to the brahmanas, then brahmanas will take a decision in trying to re-establish the system in such a way that everyone again gets benefited by every other individual. The king is benefited by the subjects, and the subjects are benefited by the king. So such system has been existing for so many ages, and now of course that is not existing, and that's why we see it is there in some form or other, but it is not acting for the purpose of elevating everyone's consciousness in terms of spiritual progress. It is just acting in today, even as I said, like in any organization we see this varnashram system is existing, but unfortunately in this kind of varnashram structure, the Vaishyas or the Shudras are taking the higher position, and the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas are forced to work under them. And then what happens is, everything becomes topsy-turvy. The interests of Vaishya and Shudra are somewhat different, right? So they also have an opportunity to progress on the spiritual path, but that doesn't mean they take the role of somebody else. When they take the role of somebody else, then everyone will suffer. And when Vaishya or Shudra becomes the king, then what happens is, first thing is, he doesn't want to hear to the Brahmanas directly, because even the Brahmanas are asked to work under the Vaishya king. Then what happens is, like the Brahmanas also get dictated by the Vaishyas in terms of how to get more money or how to make more profits, and so many other things. So such things are happening today. But anyways, going back to the story of Parikshit Maharaj, we can see that Parikshit Maharaj is compared to King Shibi in terms of charity and in terms of protecting the surrendered souls. We can see that in the life of Parikshit Maharaj also. We see that when Kali personified came to, came to Parikshit Maharaj, surrendered to him. Parikshit was very intelligent. He actually gave, he actually gave protection to Kali in one sense, and also he punished Kali, right? We also see the story of the bull and the cow when they were talking to each other. Parikshit Maharaj actually goes and protects, the dharma, right? It is said that the cow and bull represent dharma and earth, and Parikshit Maharaj actually protects them. So we see that he has all these great qualities, and he also performed so many yajnas, although he was very young at the time. He was of course a pure devotee of the Lord, but it is said that the yajnas are supposed to be performed by the king. Like in Prabhupada writes in the first line of the purport itself, the greatness of a king is understood by the number of performance, sacrifices he performs, and the way he protects his citizens. All these things show how great the king is. So we also see Parikshit Maharaj, although he was a pure devotee, he was also performing so many sacrifices. We will see that in the future verses actually. Now, of course, not a great detail is given about what kind of sacrifices Parikshit Maharaj performed, but it is mentioned clearly that he is a pure devotee of the Lord. So that is the greatest sacrifice actually. Um, and and we see how Parikshit Maharaj also became so famous like Bharata, right? Because we see in our Vaishnava sampradayas, and also in general in the Indian or the Vedic culture, I would say. I would not say Indian culture. It's a Vedic culture. In the Vedic culture, we clearly see Parikshit Maharaj as a very distinctive position in our history, because he was the cause for Sukadeva Goswami to speak Srimad Bhagavatam, which is available to all of us. So this great literature is available to us because Parikshit Maharaj acted in a particular way under the direction of the Yogamaya, and this Bhagavatam became available to all of us. So in this way, Parikshit Maharaj, is a great charitable person also, because he made this Bhagavatam available for all of us through Sukadeva Goswami. He was of course a pure devotee of the Lord from the very birth. In the previous slokas, we have seen how he was protected by the Lord himself. So this is all Lord's arrangement, that these great kings come to this world, and so that is why it is said, like, these kings do not only show how to live in this world, but they also show how to leave this world also. Mm. So so in this way, we see the greatness of Parikshit, that in the future chapters, we are going to see one by one all these qualities coming true actually. If we can relate them to these few verses where his glories are being explained, we can understand that the predictions of these brahmanas about Parikshit Maharaj are all going to come true. And talking about these great kings like Shibi and Bharata, Prabhupada, first coming to King Bharata, Prabhupada says there are many kings with the name Bharata, and as far as we are concerned, this whole Bhumandala is named as Bharata Varsha, after the King Bharata, who is the son of King Rishabhadev. And that story only we read in Srimad Bhagavatam also. The great King Bharata, at a very young age, after becoming the emperor of the whole world, he fulfills his responsibilities, and he leaves all that and goes to the forest to become to surrender his life to the Supreme Lord. And of course, we see the whole story of how he committed a small mistake, and how he fell down into the body of a deer. Again, he became Jadavarata, and all these descriptions are given very clearly, I think, in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is a wonderful section, and there are many lessons for a sadhaka to learn from that particular section. And coming to the king Shibi, of course, we have read this story we have been reading this since our childhood. I remember reading this in my first, second standard, first, second grade. those days also, these great kings are always given as examples to the children, so that they also develop such great qualities. We hear about King Shibi, we hear about King Harishchandra, and all these great kings, and all these histories are actually given elaborately in the Mahabharata. Of course, Mahabharata, this Pandava Kaurava section is comes much later actually. Initially, it starts with all these dynasties and all the great kings who appear in those dynasties, and the great activities, the wonderful activities all these kings have performed in order to live by the principles of dharma and protect dharma and propagate dharma. So these were the three main important things all these great kings have done. So in the case of Maharaj Shibi, his example is always given to to show how a person should be charitable. Like he was ready to cut off his own flesh and give it to the like in Prabhupada's words, pigeon hunter, pigeon hunter bird, the eagle. So he was able to, he was not even considering that this is my body, I need to protect myself, but he was actually ready to offer himself just to protect one innocent pigeon, whom he considered to be his subject, one who is in his society. So there is a, I mean, of course, in today's world, these teachings are made into a mere oh, I don't have a right word to call. They removed the spiritual portion of these stories, and they just gave us some kind of moral. They are taught in the schools as mere moral stories. But then morality and spirituality are two distinctive things. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that in his writings, that a person who considers spirituality to be subservient to morality, he is not a very first class. He is not a first class devotee actually. And Prabhupada also gives the example of Mahatma Gandhi in that regard. Mahatma Gandhi once said, like, if I have no problem accepting Rama as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but then if it is true that Krishna actually danced with so many gopis, I consider, I feel ashamed to consider myself as Hindu. That's what Mahatma Gandhi mentioned at one point. And it is said, like, this is like, these are the kind of people who put morality under or sorry, spirituality under the morality. That means they feel like, even Supreme Personality of Godhead has to act according to my rules. I remember the example which is given by His Grace Gaur Gopal Prabhu many times. Like he says that if you are walking or driving on a road and there is a red signal, and you immediately stop, and you see in the sky that there is a airplane passing by, in the sky, and you feel like, oh, there is red signal, why is that airplane not stopping? So it is like, judging these great personalities, Supreme Personality of Godhead, by our own rules will only bewilder us, right? So that is why we should not place spirituality under the morality. Of course, the great spiritualists who have been practicing dharma for so many ages, they all also gave so much value, so much, morality has its own place in the society. Without that, it is not possible to run the society in a proper way. But then, we should not consider that, uh, all the um, all the incarnations of the Lord also have to follow those moral principles. Of course, in certain incarnations, we see that very clearly, like in Lord Ramachandra, he's Maryada Purushottam. He always follows the code of conduct very properly. But the incarnation, like, Lord Krishna, where he's a Purna Purushottam, he came for a different purpose. He came to satisfy so many of his devotees, and he's in fact the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So our rules do not apply to him. And the whole point of saying this is because, in our education system, it has been common practice for so many years now, that all these great stories, these are all histories, these are all our own ancestors actually. And everyone in this world, irrespective of whether he's a Hindu or belonging to any other caste or religion, everyone in this world have some connection to these great kings, because at one point the whole earth planet was called Bharata Varsha. or Ilavrata Varsha. All these great kings were our ancestors actually, and today these stories are spoken as if some fictional stories to establish morality in this world. But then again, the whole point is that if we teach morality without understanding the spiritual roots of these things, it only becomes very shallow. I don't even find that many children become inspired by those stories, because we don't understand the character of these great kings in terms of their spiritual commitment. And when that comes, then morality also has its own place. Otherwise, we just hear as a story. Till the time I came to read Srila Prabhupada's books, all these stories were not making much sense. I was just having so many doubts in my mind. I was always feeling like, you know I mean, we don't we there is always dharma sandigdhata in this world, right? Like, we always have different choices, and we always want to choose something according to certain rules and regulations given in the shastra. I mean, at least that is what is supposed to happen. But then, when we are put in dharma sandigdhata, that means, either choosing. It is very easy to choose dharma. It is very easy to see what is dharma and what is adharma. That is not a big deal, because there are many things, like, like, for example, telling a lie is not right. That is very easy to understand. But then there are certain things, certain situations where you are asked to choose higher dharma, uh, choose between higher and lower dharmas. When such things come, it becomes very complicated. We don't understand what is higher, what is lower, which one should be chosen, so that there is benefit for everyone. So such things are become very clear when we have a spiritual background. When morality is established based on the spiritual background, when that happens, it becomes very easy for us to understand, okay, this is a higher dharma and this is a lower dharma. Both are dharma only, but we have to sacrifice one for the other. So so all these great kings, like Maharaj Bharata, or Maharaj Shibi, Maharaj Harishchandra, of course, Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, and their forefathers like Dasharatha, and even their forefathers who are coming in these great dynasties, they all were trained from their early childhood in the principles of spirituality, and they understood it very thoroughly, and their morality is totally based upon it is grounded to spiritual principles, and that is why they were able to exhibit all these great qualities. If we just remove that spiritual training or spiritual teachings from their life and see them as some moral people, then all these stories do not they stop making sense after certain extent. But when we understand that these are all great devotees of the Lord, and their purpose of practicing this dharma is to please the Supreme Lord, such then all these stories actually make a lot of sense. And even their morality, even their charity, even everything makes a lot of sense. At one point, even I was when I was reading about Parikshit Maharaj, even before coming to Krishna consciousness, I always used to understand why Parikshit was acting like this. He should have gone and killed this small child and his father, and he should have nullified his curse, because I also read that he was able to do that. Samik Rishi and his son Shringi, when Shringi curses Parikshit, it is explained that he has a potency to counter curse, but then why he was not able to do. I was also getting doubts on the character of Brahmanas, why these Brahmanas, although they are supposed to be self-controlled, they are not self-controlled. All these things were, and I also was doubting, Samik Rishi, why the Samik Rishi did not ask his son Shringi to give a remedy for the curse and all these things. But when I started reading Bhagavatam, given by Srila Prabhupada, then things were clear. Prabhupada clearly says in the purports, and of course even Bhagavatam describes very clearly that this is all happening under the will of the Lord. It is the Yogamaya potency of the Lord which is arranging all these things, because there is a big drama going to happen, and out of the drama comes Srimad Bhagavatam, and this Bhagavatam is going to show the light for all the conditioned souls in the Kali Yuga. So when we try to remove that part, the spiritual aspect of it, and consider it as just as a history or some kind of moral story, then we don't get ultimate benefit of it. So in today's class, we have seen the position of, in the translation, Prabhupada says about the greatness of Parikshit Maharaj. And we have, in the purport, Prabhupada explains the histories of these great kings and what are the charitable activities and activities where they offered protection to the surrendered souls. All these things were discussed. Initially, I discussed about the Varnashram system in general and how everyone gets benefited in the society by engaging in their own tendencies, and that kind of framework is given by the Varnashram system. And although it is not it has nothing to do with, I don't say nothing to do, but it is not equivalent to spiritual practice, but it gives a very good it gives a very good platform where everyone can be engaged in parodharma. That is the purpose of Varnashram that we discussed elaborately. And after that, I have given a little bit description about all these great kings who are appearing in various dynasties, and how there are many kings with the name Parikshit, and many kings with the name Janamejaya, many kings with the name Bharata, all these things. In fact, if we have to get into the details of who is the son of whom, there is a big long list. And of course, I don't know how much of that is true, because those I have seen from some unauthorized sources. Maybe I have to confirm with somebody else if I have to speak that. But then anyways, that is not a focus here. The focus is that these all are great kings, and they all exhibited various great qualities in terms of practicing dharma, morality of this world, while being very great spiritually enlightened people. And at the later section, we discussed how Parikshit Maharaj exhibited some of these qualities, and these are going to be seen in the future verses also. So with this, I would like to end. It is 7:55 now. If anyone has any questions or comments, I consider this to be a great opportunity to purify my own heart, focusing on, meditating on all these great qualities of these great devotee kings. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you so much for the nice class session. I was thinking, the point that you mentioned, Prabhu, about taking only the stories or the moral part of it, and then not knowing the spiritual part behind it. Right? It's like very bewildering to understand why things are happening in that way.
Yeah.
Right? We were reading yesterday. Bhagavatam. There, this question came to me: why Jaya and Vijaya has to take those? There's so much disturbances that came, right? Because they took the demonic births, Hiranyakashipu.
Yeah.
So why they have to do it? Because it's not that they're only suffering. All the living entities in the all planetary systems are suffering, right?
Yeah.
Because of that thing. They could have taken a birth of like say devotees. It could have been everything is pleasing, just
Yeah.
for them to go back to Lord within short time. So this destroys the whole society. So I was thinking that, right? So then the Sanjay Prabhu said, yeah. So because the Lord came and he performed so many pastimes because of that. So we are discussing those things, how great Prahlad is, right? So all those things happened, right? So otherwise we would not have those pastimes, right? To talk about it. So the whole thing. If we take only part of it and we will blame that personality, right? So, but if you know the whole thing, so it's always good. Why people talk about only moral things, and that doesn't bring any it brings questions, but then people will not be able to answer if they don't know the
Answer.
spiritual thought behind it. So then it becomes lost.
True, Prabhu.
And they say the mythology, or they don't have the qualification, or thank you.
Yeah, in the name of being kind of secular or whatever, we just neglect the spiritual part. So today, whoever are calling themselves secular are more or less kind of, you know, um, becoming atheistic in one sense. Because the spiritual principles are not given full importance. Actually, the true meaning of, like, being more secular or more open to other, uh, other what to say, other practices is, it happens only when we are rooted in our own um, traditions or practices or spiritual principles. Then it becomes, then naturally we become very udarati. Krishna uses that word in Bhagavad Gita. We become very open-minded, actually broad-minded, and with broad mind we can accept everyone following their own different traditions or whatever. But today somehow people are very afraid of speaking, like I saw one of the poems in my son's textbook. So in the olden days they used to sing songs on even elephant or any other living creature, they any other matter, they finally bring it to some bring it to some glorification of the Supreme Lord. uh, so there are some songs in Telugu which speak about, which start with some elephant coming into their town and finally end with elephant carrying Lord Rama on their back. So these were the things which we were reading in the past, but today when I saw that I was like kind of bewildered, because there it is something different only is mentioned, because they don't want to openly mention Lord Rama's name, or I don't know what is the reason, but but such things are happening. So even children don't find these lessons so meaningful. So somehow it is, in one sense it is our responsibility also to teach our children, our next generation, or whomever we come in contact with about it's not that we are taking the position of a teacher, it is only that we are taking a position of a better servant. We are trying to just like all these great kings, they worked so hard to propagate. As I said, they were practicing, they were protecting, and they were also propagating the spiritual culture. And in somehow or other, if we are able to do that also, depending on the time, place, circumstances, then we will also be benefited and everyone else will be benefited by that. So that is my humble opinion, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So anyone else has any other comments? Otherwise it's 8 o'clock, we can end this here. I think, Prabhu, there are no other comments from anyone. So maybe we can stop this here, Prabhu. Okay. Thank you very much for all your kind attention. And I was able to speak a few words just because of all the blessings that you have showered upon me. And I feel grateful to get this opportunity. And would like to end here. Grandaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो